Hello and welcome again to my channel. In this episode, I want to talk about politics, and this has to do with politics in Africa and specifically Ivory Coast. So, recently now, the current president, Alassane Ouattara, has been reinstalled as president of Ivory Coast again, and this will be his third tenure in office. And it has been causing a lot of stirres. I mean, a lot of people are not happy while a lot of people are happy. But the thing there is that what is happening right now is not anything new. This is something that we have seen happen all around, in a lot of countries in Africa. Even before before Alassane Ouattara, we had the Laurent Gbagbo issue, whereby he was defeated in an election, but he didn't want to leave. He still wanted to continue. So there's always a tendency of a president not wanting to leave office, even after his tenure has expired. This also happened in Nigeria back then during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo, when he wanted to go for a third term. Although it didn't work out, but eventually those that didn't make it work out has been suffering from it ever since, especially his vice president, Atiku, who was his vice president then and was oppositive to the fact that Obasanjo wanted to go for a third term. And because of that, he has not been able to succeed in his political ambition of becoming the president. But of course, anything can still happen. However, back to the issue of Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is known to be the world-leading top producer of cocoa. And so there are a lot of things involved when you think about countries that have natural resources, because there are a lot of external influences that come in. You might not see them directly, but they are underlining and they are always there. And especially when they have support from France. Ivory Coast was a French colony. So a lot of controls are coming from that end, and that was even how Laurent Gbagbo was even removed from office back then in 2010, when after an election was conducted, and the current president now, which is Alassane Ouattara, won the election by about 54%. But Gbagbo refused to leave the office and said he won as well. Eventually, his people came up with a number and said he won by 51%. And for that reason, he refused to leave. And around December 2010, Alassane Ouattara resumed as president, and Laurent Gbagbo also stayed as president. So they had more like two presidents in the country until eventually 2011, when Gbagbo was ousted and eventually taken to ICC and prosecuted for war crimes. However, he has been cleared in 2019 that on the basis of insufficient evidence against him. However, he has been barred from coming to Ivory Coast until the whole matter is being resolved. But right now, the issue on ground is that Alassane Ouattara has refused to leave office. And according to him, constitutional reset was done recently, and after the constitutional reset, according to him, that his own tenure has been resetted to 0. So it's more like doing a constitutional review, and then suddenly the tenure he has stayed in office has been resetted to 0. So in other words, he's free to run again. Even though he's not seeing this as a third time, he's seeing it as another first time. So that means if this is allowed to continue like this, he might still run again after this tenure expires. He can still run again according to him, because he's saying that his tenure is 0. So this is more like a first time for him and not a third time for him. And he has a French backing. And he has French backing. That is the thing there, because these African countries are still suffering from the colonial ties that they have. But the fact that those colonial ties are still there makes it difficult for them to determine or do certain things, because they are still controlled somehow, some way. It's not really, even though we say that a lot of countries has gotten their independence, but they are still tied to their colonial masters. These are not physical colonies anymore. This is not something that you say, okay, they are ruling them directly, but they are ruling them indirectly. So a lot of things is still being controlled by these other, guys. And in this case now, it is France. And France still has a very strong hold in Ivory Coast, and that is playing out right now. Even at the inauguration of this thing, some people boycotted the whole ceremony, but it didn't really matter. As long as France has recognized him, eventually other countries and other people will also recognize him. And so he is a legal president right now. But fight is still ongoing. People are not happy. There has been clashes, violence all over the places. People have been killed. There have been loss of life here and there. But the president has said he is a legal president and he won the election. And he has been certified by the body of election, by Independent Electoral Commission. And so he is recognized as the president. But is this really what we really want in Africa? This has happened in several places and it's still happening, and we are seeing it happen again. And there is no saying that it will not happen again. We've had cases from different countries that have suffered from the same issue, whereby the president, after their tenure, don't want to go. This is a mentality that needs to stop in Africa, because growth will not be experienced if those in power who have not really made noticeable changes refuse to leave. I mean, if it continues like that, then it's going to be a problem. Africa is still back in terms of development, and it's still regarded as third world country. Imagine countries like India and all of that has been progressing. Of course, it doesn't mean that they have gone very far above some of these African countries, but when you look at it, you realize that technology has gone far in those other countries. A lot of countries have gone far beyond African countries, even African countries that had independence before them. African countries are below, they are backwards because of politics. And until the political issues have been fixed, until we realize that things can turn around when leaders of right caliber have been appointed, then Africa will still continue to suffer. Africa needs to grow out of the level of poverty that it is into. Africa is always seeking loans, seeking aid from other foreign countries. Meanwhile, they have a lot of natural resources that can actually sustain them. But why is this not working out the way it's supposed to work out? Because of leadership. So as long as leadership is not being taken care of, as long as leadership is being smeared with political corruptions, then it will still be difficult for the African states to progress. So it is not something that anyone can just wake up and turn around and say Alassane Ouattara should stop being the president. I mean, it's a country, it's an entity on its own, and they have their legal system and everything. But it is difficult to do that actually, because even the president himself, through other system, has been arresting those that are opposition. So it is now difficult for the opposition to even make a lot of statements. It's difficult for the opposition to be recognized. It's difficult for the opposition to even survive as opposition in their own countries, because a lot of those of them that are coming out as activists and coming out against everything that is happening have been arrested. And we've seen this played out in countries whereby you say they have a dictatorship system, whereby he doesn't really care what the constitution says or what anybody says. He does what he wants. And so it's a problem. Look at what happened to what is happening in Uganda recently, whereby Omale was arrested also. And the whole statement was that, oh, the president is a military man and he doesn't care what anyone thinks, Museveni. So, but is that really the way Africa wants to continue to be? Africa has been this way for a long time, but is this really the way they want to continue to be? Because if this is, then it will still be difficult. Maybe in the next decade, in the next century, they will still be where they are, and this is not what anyone wants. Development is what everybody seeks, and if a continent, not just country, if a continent has refused to grow because of leadership, then it is their own problem, because their people will continue to live. Eventually, those that have opportunities to leave the country, to leave the continent as a whole, will leave, and that will cause brain drain and eventually leaving them the way they are, stagnated and non-growing, and that is not good for the coming generations. So that's what I have to say. And if you think you have a contrary opinion, please leave it in the comment section. And thank you for listening, and see you in the next one.